That is me. I am the one I am the one behind all those posts, and I figured if there is some type of live chat here, I'm not sure how this works, but if there is, I'll be down for a Q&A. I don't know if that's before or after, one or the other, but yeah. So yeah, I'm the one here that has done that, and the pressure is there. Like I'm going to continue that pressure on Maura Healey. Like, if you think that anyone thinks that I'm going to let down on what I'm saying about this horrific governor, oh, no way. I'm going to go about it even more aggressively, because now she's more desperate now than ever. Now Maura Healey is more desperate now than ever, because she's got such a competitive race now, and everybody's seeing it. Everyone is seeing it now as to how desperate that she is. That's why she's running the most dishonest, most negative campaign in the entire country. That's why she's completely desperate, and that's why she's running these blatant false attack ads that are just completely false, and they don't make any sense whatsoever. It's like me. I'm the one who fact checks it. Every time Maura Healey makes her stupid nonsense arguments about how everybody who opposes her is MAGA, and they want to rob children of their school lunches, and they want to put machine guns in the shopping carts of Stop and Shop and everything like that, it's so obviously blatantly untrue. It is so blatantly ridiculous that it is an insult to the intelligence of any person. And nobody with half a brain believes it. And you don't even have to do anything else, because the worst thing of all about this governor is the taxes. That is the worst thing about it. Because we've had 36 consecutive tax hikes that have already taken $15 billion out of our pockets and out of businesses' pockets. And you want to know that the worst thing about this is Maura Healey doesn't have to do anything. Maura Healey doesn't have to do anything without these taxes getting even worse. Isaac, I'm grateful that you are taking on Mafia Maura. She's evil, elitist, and manipulative. Time to remove her. Love seeing you post. Well, thank you, Casey. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you and your feedback. I really do. And that message is now getting out there. And that message is now getting out there about what she has done. And this is the biggest killer of jobs. Nobody has helped create more jobs for other states than Maura Healey has, especially around this vicinity, especially in the Mid-Atlantic region, and especially in New Hampshire. Excuse me. Nobody has ever helped create more jobs for New Hampshire than almost anybody. And nobody has, because Maura Healey kills the jobs by the thousands. She helps kill jobs by the thousands. We've lost 146,000 jobs in total. And that's not counting the 35,000 private sector jobs that we've already lost under this administration. Why? Number one reason, because of 36 consecutive tax hikes that have taken $15 billion. And back to what I was saying earlier about that. That $15 billion that Maura Healey has taken out of our pockets already, you know that number will double over the next 4 years. If Maura Healey gets in again, God forbid she gets in again, and we have 4 more years of this, that number that she has taken out of our pockets, that $15 billion in spending that she has already taken out of our pockets, that number will double to $30 billion. That means that will cost the average Massachusetts family another $9,000 more per year, thanks to Maura Healey raising taxes. Thanks to her raising the worst tax and fee increases in history and worst energy costs in history. And also your energy bills are likely going to go up probably by another 80 to 90% at the same time. And that's before she's proposed another $9.33 billion in new spending, because she thinks that she wants to make community college free. And even me, I support the concept of those things and the concept of it being of it applying to every, like healthcare, education, and everything else. But I sit here and think there's no way that we can afford this when Maura Healey is the one tanking the economy with the worst tax and fee increases in the history of the state. There's no way. And that number will double over it will. You will see it. There will be a $30 billion increase in spending because it will jump. Because all the taxes and fees that Maura Healey has in place, that number will go up because all these taxes and fees that Maura Healey has put into place, including the paper bag fee, the candy tax, the cable box tax, all those taxes and fees, the number that it's taken out of her pockets, that will double because there are triggers in place that she has put in place over various periods of time. So the tax hikes will go up by another 100% without Maura Healey doing anything. So if she gets in again, we're going to see our taxes go up another 100%. We're going to see the spending double to $30 billion because of the triggers in place. Unless she loses and someone gets in and rolls back as many of them as possible, and that's the number one thing I've been arguing. That's the primary focus of my opposition to this horrific governor. And shifted the illegals to the apartments, displacing Americans on the wait list. And then that's the primary thing. That's already costing us $8,500 per person per year, thanks to Maura Healey's migration shelter crisis. And that number is likely going to double as well. And that number, do you know how much that'll cost us? That'll cost us $17,000 more per year, per person per year, because I said the spending that she has increased year after year after year after year, $15 billion of taxes and fees. That number will double because, again, with all the retroactive triggers in place that she put in over various periods of time, and that number will go up. That will double to $30 billion. $30 billion in spending will likely bankrupt this state for long term into the future. So that is why we cannot afford 4 more years of this. And have bogus payments to landlords to accept illegals. That's the thing. Being a sanctuary state is the worst thing ever. The sanctuary state has already cost us $3,088 million. It's ridiculous. And it's already costed us another $312 million just in the past 2 years alone. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous if anybody thinks that is any type of direction that we should be going down. If you think that we can survive with 36 consecutive tax hikes with $15 billion, and you know what'll happen, right? If Maura Healey gets her way and she wants another $9.33 billion in new spending, that means Maura Healey will likely have to come up with another 25 to 36 more taxes. And she's not honest about where the money's going to come from. So can you imagine that? Imagine 4 more years of Maura Healey and we'll see another 25 or 36 more taxes. Again, it'll just bankrupt the state for multiple generations. It would just be one of the biggest disasters in state history. It's just... And she's such a liar. She's such a clown. She's so dishonest. She's such a liar. She's such a clown. She's so dishonest. She's walked backwards from every single conclusion that she has ever made. And because remember, she said, I'm not going to commit to anything. I'm not going to commit to new taxes or anything like that. I'm not going to commit to new taxes. Yeah, well, we heard that before. And she's already saying no new taxes in her budget. And then in her next budget will be no new taxes. Right, yeah. Well, we heard that before. We heard that before. Before we heard that. And then we heard that before. And then we get the worst tax and fee increases in the history of Massachusetts, presided by the worst governor ever in the history of Massachusetts, who is the worst serial tax hiker in the history of this state. You have to spread the word, spread the narrative, continue doing it. Be on the ground, do it. I'm telling you, doing this will get the message out there. It's already working. And I advocate for everybody to do so. Because she is, and I've always said Maura Healey's record of failure, but her record is a record of evil. Her record is a record of evil and failure. And that's the thing, because there's so many people here that just cannot afford any more of these taxes, these energy costs and everything. And people in the state are getting up and leaving and going in every direction. They're leaving to go to New Hampshire, to go to Maine, to go to Delaware, to go to North Carolina, South Carolina, go down to Florida, go over to Texas, because people are just fed up with it. I talk to people all the time, and there's polls coming out that shows that as many as 60% of people are thinking of leaving the state within the next year or two. And I've seen it. Like there's been polls showing anywhere from like 40% to 60% at least that are showing that people say that they say I love the state, but I can't afford to stay here. I can't afford to stay here with all the taxes and all the fees. I just can't do it. That is why we cannot continue to go in the same direction. We just cannot. There is no way whatsoever we can afford this at all whatsoever. I don't. And this race has nothing to do with Trump. And just because you make this race about Trump isn't going to change the voters. I talk to people every single day on here and in the public, in the broader general public. That's not what they're focused on. So I talk to people all the time. Just because Maura Healey wants to make this election about something else, that's not going to change what it really is. It's like changing the definitions around about something and changing what it really is. You're not going to change the election and change what it really is. But you're going to take advantage of that because of the fact that this state is one of the most gerrymandered states in the entire country. And it's actually funny because the governor of Texas said this recently. He said, in all these blue states that people are leaving, including Massachusetts, it doesn't even have any Republicans left. Yeah, that they don't. They don't have any Republicans representing us. How does the state have like 40% Republicans, 30 to 40%, and yet there's no Republican representative in Congress or in the Senate? That just goes to show it's all rigged in favor of the Democrats in the state. It is all rigged in favor of the Democrats all across the board. And those are one of the places that many people are going to. Because nobody can, and people are fed up. Because nobody can. People are fed up. People are fed up from every single direction. And you want to talk about taxing the rich. There's nothing here that has to do with the rich. How does this have to do with the rich? How does this have to do with the rich? How is raising 33 regressive taxes about taxing the rich? How is it that when you raise a total of 36 consecutive tax hikes, how is it that 33 of them are regressive? Do you think a paper bag fee is going to hit the rich? Do you think that taxing paint cans is going to tax the rich? Let's see. Do you think that putting delivery charges on your energy bill, which straw that has broke the camel's back, and then the nuclear bomb that people just could not stomach after 36 taxes in a row, is wanting to triple the motor vehicle excise tax. People just could not stomach that after 36 taxes in a row. People, well, when they heard about that, they're just like, I can't. Like, this is ridiculous. They're just like, I can't. Like, me too. I'm so sick of this stupid nonsense. I'm so sick of it because every time you turn around, there's another tax. Why can't we just work within our budget? And as I've stated, these Democrats have no idea how economics work. They have no idea. They have no concept of how economics works and how political definitions and terminologies work, because that's why they want to turn around and make this election about Trump and Republicans and everything else, when it's got nothing to do with that and nothing to do with any of those things. Because when you raise taxes more, it results in less revenue for the state in the long run. You know why? Because, again, it reduces the consumer confidence in businesses. How can businesses grow when they're choked by 36 taxes? How can they grow? How can people grow their take-home pay when their backs are breaking under 36 tax hikes? How can they sit there and how can they grow? They can't. They can't grow. And then when they can't grow, then the economy doesn't grow. That's why That's why we have no job growth, and our growth as a state is 49th out of 50 states. That's why the business confidence or the new business development in the state is also 49th out of 50 states. We're 49th out of 50 states in three categories: state growth by U-Haul, cost of doing business, and new business development. New business development in the state is amongst the absolute worst in the entire country. This state has absolutely no job growth. And how is it going to have any job growth? When people can't grow their take-home pay, that negatively affects the economy. And then when businesses can't grow because they're suffocated under 36 tax sites, and then the energy costs that are spiraling out of control that are also worsened further by the 36 taxes in a row, those energy costs prevent businesses from even being able to run, being able to keep the lights on. If businesses are paying more to be able to even freaking keep the lights on, never mind everything else, electricity and everything else, and storing their goods and storing the this and that and everything, how are they expected to grow? How is anything? And then especially, how are we allowed to grow when 3.88 billion of our taxpayer dollars has been shoveled over to help pay for non-citizens? How is that fair? How is wasting $3.88 billion on that? And then but Maura Healey says she cut taxes. Maura Healey says she cut taxes, that she's the one. Fraud, scammer, con artist, buffoon who is incompetent and is proven to be incompetent. Really? You want to say you cut taxes when you increase taxes by $15 billion? That's so funny. That's funny because you're rounding. Maura Healey's got such a rounding error that it's not even funny. Really? You cut taxes when you got $15 billion? It makes no sense whatsoever. None of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. Not one bit of it. Anyway, if anyone would like to ask me any questions, I mean, feel free. I'd love to. I mean, probably gonna go for maybe like 10, 15 minutes or so. And anyone has any questions about anything, feel free. I'm willing to answer some things. There are a few people come in, pop in, which I appreciate. I appreciate all the. And I've been thinking about it. And I've even been thinking about running in some kind of city council or maybe doing some city council job, even though I do work full time though. I do work full time though, but I was even thinking about that because a lot of people are advocating for me saying I should run and everything else. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. And I think at some point in the future, I definitely think I should. Especially, I think I might do everything in my willpower. If Maura Healey gets in again, I definitely think I'm going to take her on somehow, at least at the local level anyways. But that's if we have any more people left in the state. I mean, this state lost 182,000 people. This state lost 33,000 people last year alone to go to other states around the rest of the country because they can't afford to be here. They can't afford the taxes. They can't afford the costs and anything. But yeah, no, I definitely am thinking about it, and I definitely would because before May of 2024, I was relatively neutral about this government, didn't have much of an opinion. But then when I kept hearing things over and over and over again, but the number one thing was when she did what she did to New Hampshire, trying to put a toll on New Hampshire's border and tax people more for driving a pickup truck. That was the beginning of the end for me. That was when I'm like, no, screw this governor. I'm officially on F Maura Healey. At that point, I'm like, no, that's it. And then I saw other groups and everything, and then I started getting into those groups like a year and a half ago. And ever since, I've been doing this, counting up all her taxes and fees, and then she started with the local taxes and all this other stuff. Oh, but let's make this election about Trump. Let's make this election about Trump. I'm telling you. I really hope that people on election day do wake up and realize that this election is not about Trump. This election is not about the White House. This election is about the future of this Commonwealth. And I'm telling you, 4 more years is going to result in, it's going to result in 100% increase in taxes. It's going to result in it's going to result in sheer catastrophe. There's no way that there is no way that the state can afford 4 more years of this. There's just no way. There's no way. That's why I'm out here doing this. That's why I'm out here doing this now. That's why I'm out here doing this now. Every step of the way doing it. And I will. And I'm not going to back down. Not one bit. Legals from the motels to the apartments displaying Americans on the wait list. Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. And I know, and the worst thing is, her tripling the excise tax isn't even the tax that's going to take the most money out of our pockets. In fact, the thing that's going to take the most money out of our pockets, actually, the tax that Maura Healey has implemented that is taking the most money out of our economy is actually the millionaire's tax. Even though that's only one of her 3 tax hikes that are on the rich. Isn't that crazy? That the tax, because when wealthy people get up and leave, that takes a huge amount of money out of our economy. That is taking $4.1 to $8 billion out of our economy. Meanwhile, North Carolina gains jobs at like an 18% growth rate compared to this state. North Carolina has been growing like crazy. Florida has been growing like crazy. Texas has been growing like crazy. New Hampshire has been growing like crazy. They all have. And every single time Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire, my favorite governor in the entire country. Why? Because she speaks how I speak, because she knows how much of a failure Maura Healey is, and how fellow Democrats in New Hampshire, like her idiotic sidekick Joyce Craig that she endorsed for governor, luckily the people of New Hampshire were smart enough to say that, and that's what Kelly Ayotte ran in New Hampshire. She ran a campaign saying, well, we've seen what Massachusetts has looked like since 2023, and I am in no way, shape, or form going to allow that to happen in New Hampshire. And then, what do you know? She ends up winning. And she's likely going to win again. And not only am I going to go to, I'm going to go to events with Mike Minogue. I'm telling you, he's the one that's obviously got the best chance at beating Maura Healey. I don't care who it is. If it was short sleeve, I would get behind short sleeve. We have to vote for whoever it is that's going to take down Maura Healey. There is no way that we can take any more of this. And you know what even the most craziest thing is? That this same clown wants to sit there and talk about the environment when she's the one that robs the trust fund. You know, another reason why the state is going broke is because, well, suing towns for not going along with the ridiculous MDTA Act, but then she's raining trust funds. She's raining money out of trust funds. The educational trust fund, the transportation trust fund, money to clean up the Massachusetts Bay Trust, taking money out of that and pouring into the general fund, the gas tax, which we could have suspended the gas tax to relieve pressure at the gas pump, but Maura Healey refuses to do that. She even refuses to budge on the income tax. She refuses to budge on anything. Why? Well, you wouldn't think that the worst serial tax hiker in history would want any type of tax hikes, would want any type of tax cuts, right? Of course she wouldn't. Maura Healey would never want any tax cuts for anybody. And those so-called tax cuts that she brags about were ones that the Democrats pushed through, that Charlie Baker was the one that actually got through. He wanted to do it, but then the Democrats wouldn't let him do it. But then when they knew that Maura Healey was going to go in, then they deliberately waited until Maura Healey did it so they could have a victory. That was exactly what it is. Nobody would tell you that. No other sources would tell you that. No other sources would tell you that, but that is the biggest one. The biggest one right there is that. And then we get that. And then we get phony promises on no new taxes, and then what do we get? We get 33 regressive taxes that hit people at the lowest end of the income scale. Those are the ones we have to roll back as much as possible. Day one, the number one thing we should do is, number one, get the audit. There's a reason why they're so afraid of the audit. They're afraid. They're afraid of what's in it. If you got that much to hide, you shouldn't be in office. Well, you shouldn't be in office anyway. You shouldn't be in office. When you destroy this state and ruin people's lives, ruin people's livelihoods, ruin their business because you're such an incompetent piece of garbage, which all these scumbags are on Beacon Hill, they're all one-trick tax-hiking ponies that have no grounds in reality. They're out of touch. They do not live in the real world. They have never understood what the middle class has ever had to go through their entire lives. And all these people have done nothing but raise taxes their entire lives throughout their entire terms in Massachusetts and beyond. They've never met one they didn't hike or one they didn't want to hike. And they never met an amount of money that they didn't want to spend on ridiculous nonsense. Their climate agenda, their everything, their ridiculous nonsense. They want to talk about their climate agenda. Well, their climate agenda is being undermined by Maura Healey raiding these trust funds. How do we plan to replenish all the money? Well, the way to replenish all the money is to make Massachusetts a place where people can come and want to grow in and grow their jobs and grow their businesses in. That's the only way you're going to do it. And cut taxes. That's the only other way. And cut spending, reverse every climate agenda that Maura Healey has ever written. And by doing that, actually most of the 36 tax hikes is due to her energy. So guess what? Roll back as many of those 36 taxes in a row. Because if you repeal those climate agendas, and if you repeal all those, those net zero mandates and all this other nonsense, by doing that, that'll roll it back that'll roll it back significantly. That will like repeal most of the 36 taxes just by doing that. Because that's where most of it's coming from. It's not even coming from stuff that Maura Healey even raised. Most of those 36 tax hikes are stuff that's been passed on to consumers because of what Maura Healey has done. But I say Maura Healey has raised those amount of taxes because these are because of her. These tax hikes wouldn't be happening and coming down the pike onto people's energy bills if it wasn't for your policies, which suck and are the worst in history. You blocking pipelines led to 36 tax hikes. Your net zero climate agenda led to 36 tax hikes. All those things. Day one, strip 12 fees on the electric bills. Yep, 12 of those 36 tax hikes are actually on your energy bills. The other ones are like all these fees and delivery charges on other things. It's so ridiculous. It's again, $15 billion. And for those who didn't see this message earlier, remember, 4 more years of Maura Healey will result in that $15 billion that's been taken out of our pockets already. That number will double to $30 billion if Maura Healey gets another term, because all those taxes and fees, all including those delivery fees on your energy bills and electric bills, they all have various triggers in place that have been put in over various periods of time. So those taxes and fees will go up by 100% without Maura Healey doing anything else. So 4 more years of that, we're probably going to see another 25 or 36 more taxes. But she's not on it enough to say that because, and she's waiting for some other tax to go in by election day. That'll be, who knows, by that point, we'll probably already hit about 40 taxes by that point. Why is that feasible? How is that feasible? It's not. Audit, day one, of course. Oh, that audit is going to find so much. Oh, and you know what else the audit will find? 18 months in a row that Maura Healey raised tuition. She wants to talk about Republicans raising tuition, but we can point to an 18-month period in a row that Maura Healey raised tuition. So Maura Healey can twist the narratives all around. It's not going to make it true. Can win over independents and soft Democrats, but no, won't be able to. Yeah, honestly, and I know it's ridiculous because you got to have somebody like someone like him. I hate to say it, it's just the way it is. It's the dynamic of Massachusetts. Someone like a conservative Republican is not going to win in this state. It just like if anyone thinks that they're going to repeal all these gun laws, which by the way, Maura Healey's gun laws, I am totally against. I'm not against the other things that the state has, like the background checks and everything else, and the permitting and the this and the that. Even Jeff Deal said that our gun laws have prevented a lot of tragedies that have happened in other states. So, but anyone who thinks that we're gonna just go in and repeal more these gun laws and everything else, it's like that's not even being honest. But a conservative Republican just isn't going to win in the state. It's just the only one that is going to win is a moderate Republican. The only one that's going to win that's socially liberal. That's kind of where I fall. I'm a conservative, but I'm independent, and I'm socially liberal, but I'm fiscally conservative. I actually used to be a leftist at one point. I actually used to. 2017, 18. Yeah, I used to be. For quite some time. I ended up becoming more conservative around 2022, somewhere around there. But I've always been a fan of Baker. Baker left us billions in a surplus, and so much that he was able to provide tax cuts for us. And he's the one who got our income tax down to 5% that the Democrats blocked for like 20 years. Getting the income tax to 5% was actually Paul Cellucci's idea. And then, what do we got? We got this. No, the other thing we have to do is we have to get rid of that millionaire's tax. That millionaire's tax is actually the worst tax. But here's the thing. The millionaire's tax is the tax that takes the most money out of our economy and out of our pocket. The millionaire's tax is the number one reason why this state is 43rd out of 50 states in tax competitiveness. And it's also the biggest reason why this state has slumped in business climate rankings and other things. Because this state used to have like moderate tax ratings and moderate ratings when it came to business. And now the state is in the bottom, the very, very bottom almost. But the tax that everybody has the biggest problem with is the excise tax. The motor vehicle excise tax is the one that everybody in the state has the most problem with. I don't care what part of the state I go to. I've talked to people from every walk of life. Everyone says the motor vehicle excise tax is the dumbest of all the taxes. And then wanting to triple the excise tax after 36 taxes in a row is pure stupidity. Pure stupidity. What we should have is a system like New Hampshire has, where there's registration fees that you pay on your car once or something. And that's it. Motor vehicle excise tax is the dumbest of all the taxes. And it's not even the one that takes the most money out of our pockets. The one that takes the most money out of our pockets is actually the millionaire's tax. That one we all obviously should have a big problem with. But the excise tax is the dumbest one because it's ridiculous, it's ludicrous, and no one's going to stand for it. And we're not. And there's no way that the state can continue going in the same direction. We can't. Before I wrap it up here, I want to say I appreciate everybody for stopping by, giving their feedback and everything. Sorry if I kind of rambled a little bit. But I hope I was able to get out a good message. I plan on doing something like this actually because I've never done something like this before, and I think I actually rarely, if ever, have done Facebook Live. But not doing it here was actually pretty good. So if anyone has anything else, probably gonna go make dinner soon. So that's. I don't know, man. I hope Mike Minogue can win, but I just don't understand why Brian Shortsleeve didn't get anywhere, or why Mike Keneally didn't get there. I actually met Mike Keneally. I met him in North Reading, actually. He was really nice. I liked him. I liked his team. He seemed to have a lot of really good ideas. I just don't think he was well known enough. I don't think he was well known enough to gain a lot of traction, unfortunately. Because I think if he had a lot of traction and if he was very popular, he probably would have. But it's about who's more well known. I think Mike Minogue is a little more well known, so that's why he's gaining more poll points. I hope. I can only hope. I don't know. I mean, are you all feeling it? You're all feeling it too when you go to the grocery store, right? You're all feeling it then too. But I like to ask questions. Another thing. Where are you feeling the 36 taxes in a row the most? Where are you feeling it the most? You know where I'm feeling it the most? Every time I pay my energy bill. The energy bill is the number one place that people are getting squeezed by the worst tax increases in history, which Maura the horror has put into place. It's the energy bills, for me at least. It's also groceries too. Because even though the state doesn't have sales tax on groceries, don't even say that out loud because the Maura Healey hears that she might think that that's a good idea and she might try to do that. The grocery store, because of the energy cost. You know, the energy cost actually increases the cost on trucking and even storing stuff in grocery stores, and that increases the price and the operating cost, the electricity cost. When all this costs more money and it costs the middle class more money, it negatively affects the economy in every single way. So if this state's grocery prices are getting worse, and then of course more taxes on basic freaking things like the freaking paper bag fee, that's going to also add to the cost of groceries. That's also going to add to 36 taxes in a row is going to result in everything more expensive, and it's already happening. We're already $15 billion more expensive now than we were 5 years ago. The $15 billion increase in spending is a 43% increase from 5 years ago. That means this state is $15 billion more expensive today than it was 4 or 5 years ago. Or it's $15 billion more expensive today than before Maura Healey came to power. That's why Maura Healey doesn't want you to know that. And then it'll get 30, and then by the time Maura Healey's done and she gives us another 25 or 36 more taxes, guess what? We're going to be $30 billion more expensive because that number will double over the next 4 years with those triggers in place over various periods of time. And then the cost of the migrant crisis will double, will cost us another $17,000 more per year with all those triggers in place over various periods of time. That number will go up. The energy cost will go even further up. The state will end up being like Illinois or California. Well, the state already is heading in that direction. The state is already heading in that direction. We have billions in fraud, everything, SNAP fraud, everything. And that's why the state is broke. That's why the state is broke. That's why this economy is in such a, the state is so bad off and in such a bad direction. But I want it to be better. I want it to be a better place, dude. I want it to be a better place. That's why I keep arguing against it. For the past year and a half, me making these posts and doing these videos and all these other things, If I didn't love this state, if I didn't care about this state, if I was rooting for failure, I would just want Maura Healey to be governor for another 4 years and increase our taxes by 93 to 99% and bankrupt us well into the future. Well, that's not what I want because I actually care about this state. I'm very concerned about these issues. That's why I'm out here doing this. That's why I'm out here doing this, and that's why I argue against this. And I want the state to be a better place. And I also want the state to be a better place because I also want the state to be a state where we can compete and get along with our neighbors again. That's why. That's another thing. I want the state to be able to be a place where we can actually compete with states around the country and become a place where we can all thrive in again. But there's no way that the state can improve with Maura Healey being in office. There's just no way. No way. Everything from blocking the audit to the SNAP fraud to the $3.88 billion to the 36 consecutive tax hikes to ever-growing spending. That'll just increase the taxes even further. She wants that. That'll cost us another. Again, just that paperback fee alone is going to cost us $3.64 billion more in spending. That is going to raise the spending to $18.64 billion. Every time she hikes the tax, it'll double in 4 years. So every time Maura Healey raises taxes or raises your energy costs, they will double in a 4-year period. As long as she's in office, those numbers will double. So whatever you're paying for your energy bill right now, that number in 4 years from now will double. Unless she's thrown out of office and we roll back as many of these tax increases as we possibly can. The number one thing we got to hit head on. You want to know the number one way to roll back the 36 taxes? Again, like I said earlier, repeal the net zero mandate and all her climate agenda nonsense. You roll that back, that's where most of the taxes are coming from anyway. So you do that, and then you get in, you look at the budget, you identify things that you can shrink departments and make them into smaller departments. There's all sorts of state jobs and governments the state doesn't need. The state is a friggin' bureaucracy. That is a one-party bureaucracy, a Democratic Party rule with no checks or balances, no rules, no regulation. No rules and no regulations. Here's the funny thing. This state has one of the worst rules and regulations on businesses in the entire country. That's why the state is 42nd out of 50 states in business climate and business friendliness. Because Maura Healey has an anti-business attitude. Beacon Hill has an anti-business attitude. And that's why the cost of doing business is 49th out of 50 states. And because the regulatory environment is so difficult to maneuver, it's always changing. People say they moved to Maine or they moved to New Hampshire, they get things done way quicker and cheaper at like half the price, or to a third or to half the price that they were paying for a business in Massachusetts. People on the North Shore would say, if I opened up my business across the state line over in New Hampshire or in Maine, I'd be saving a hell of a lot more money. If I went to Maine, I'd probably be saving 33%. If I was in New Hampshire, I'd be saving 50%. So, those are the only ways. And then the state has people going hungry and everything else. 40% of people. My entire advocacy about Maura Healey is actually about making the state better and actually wanting to make people's lives better, to bring tax relief to struggling families and everything. When you got 33 of the 36 tax hikes that have hit people at the lowest end of the income scale, they're bit the worst. That's the number one thing I'm focusing on and the thing that I have to argue on because we need to send a clear and concise message that you can't keep taxing people to death and expect to get away with it. You just can't. You can't tax your way into prosperity. You can't spend your way out of prosperity. You can't do it. It's impossible. And the only way we're going to do it is by firing Maura Healey and electing something different. Brian Shortsley, Mike Menard, anyone is going to be better than her. Even if it was Mike Keneally, even if it was Charlie Baker again. Mitt Romney only had one term, 2003 to 2007. Even if we got Mitt Romney win again after almost 20 years, even he would be better than 4 more years of Maura Healey. Anyone would be. Anyone. Maura Healey has screwed the state up so bad that I don't care who wins again after her. I just don't. Because I'm going to continue advocating, I'm going to continue speaking out, and I'm going to continue to do so because I want the state to be a better place, and I want to make it a state better for all of you and for my family, your family, my friends, and everyone else, and everybody in the state. I want it to be better for everybody. That's all we can hope for. All we can do is vote, 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 and bring about that change. And spread the word and spread the word and spread the wine. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here because I'm going to go make dinner now. So I want to say thank you to everybody for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to everyone for stopping by. Share this. Spread the word. You can share this. You can absolutely share this if you're able to. I appreciate everybody for coming by and for watching this. I really appreciate everyone here for supporting me and all these posts and this group and other groups as well. I want to thank my good friend Ronald, who runs this group. I want to thank him for allowing me to have a voice in here to speak my mind on all these issues. And thank you to everybody. And everybody for sharing these posts. And everybody for reading them and all the positive feedback. I really appreciate it. And I'm always here. I'm here. I'm always here to post. I'm here to post every step of the way. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm always here. Thank you all for watching, everybody. Have a great rest of your night. I'll do something like this soon. And stay tuned. I'll have another post coming out soon. Maura Healey is going to say something stupid every single day. And every time she does, I'm going to come in and fact check her in some of the harshest ways imaginable. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care of yourselves and all of each other. And keep up the good fight. And keep fighting. Later, everybody. Have a good evening.